So just to peel back the curtain for you, about 12 minutes before our first service started, we have a monitor in the back that has all of the lyrics for all of the songs and all of the chords for the guitar players to play. It has a timer for everything, and 12 minutes before the service started, that projector blew up. So all that to say, we got a brand new drummer today, and the team's singing Christmas songs, which we don't sing that often. And so I just want to commend them on a great job adjusting for both services, and thank you so much for, yeah, absolutely. And I also say that to tell you this. There is a timer on there that normally tells me when to shut up, and occasionally I'll pay attention to it. But we are going blind today, ladies and gentlemen, so buckle up, and we might be here till 3 o'clock this afternoon. I don't know what to tell you, because when I'm looking at my notes, there's not a timer on my tablet. So this might either be the shortest message you've ever heard in your life or the longest. I'm not really sure which one it'll be, but we're in it together. So thanks so much for being here. We're glad you're here. A couple weeks ago, my wife and I went to the store together. It's not something that we do often. Normally, we like to divide and conquer, but it was after one of our son's basketball games, and we had some time, so we decided we would go grocery shopping together. And while we were there, we were putting various items in the cart, and we came across the soup aisle, and I'm normally not a soup fan. It just doesn't really fill me up all that much, but it's winter and it's soup season, so I decided I'm going to grab soup for lunch. And so I grabbed a thing of soup, and my wife said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going to eat this for lunch." She said, "No, you're not. You're not going to like that." And I'm like, "I'm going to like it." She's like, "You're really not going to like it." And I'm like, "You're telling me what I'm going to like. All right, trust me, I'm going to like it." She's like, You're not going to." She's like, "You're going to put that in the cart, we're going to buy it, and then it's going to sit in our refrigerator until it expires, and nobody's going to eat it." And I'm like, "I want the soup. Is it all right that I just get the soup?" And she's like, "You're not going to eat it." And I'm like, "Can I get the soup?" And she's like, "Do what you want." So I put the soup in the cart. And as she's pushing the cart away, she says, "You're not going to eat the soup." And I'm like, all right. Fast forward to last Monday, 6 days after we went grocery shopping. I had to grab lunch real quick before I headed into the office. And so I went to the fridge, and I opened up the fridge, and I couldn't find my soup. Now, I've shared with you in the past, my wife has, you can call it a gift, you can call it magical powers, whatever you want to call it, but she has this ability that when I open the fridge, something will not be there. And then when she opens the fridge, even though it was not there a moment earlier when I had the fridge open, she will open it and it is there. And I know it's like crazy because I was looking at the exact spot the item now is that she's opened the fridge, and it was not there when I had the fridge open, but she is able to make the item appear. And so I thought maybe she'd be able to make the item. So I text her. I'm like, "Hey, I'm looking for the soup because I want to take the soup for lunch, and I don't see it anywhere in the fridge." And she responded, "That's because I ate it 4 days ago." And I'm like, "You ate the soup you tried to convince me not to buy in the store, you ate my soup." So I'm like, do we need to have a college dorm a situation here where I write my name on food items? And she's like, "No, I just wanted the soup." Now, this is really strange because my wife and I, we're part of the same family, but we have drastically different tastes. I like to eat food that tastes good. She willfully chooses to sit down, and even though there are many other options, she willfully chooses to put kale in a bowl and eat it. I don't know what kind of childhood trauma you have to experience that when you have every option available to you, that of all the options that we have, you think to yourself, "You know what I'm really in the mood to eat right now? Some kale." And yet, that is where she is. She willfully chooses to eat kale. So, like I said, we have drastically different tastes, and she just completely ate my soup. And I'm like, great, now I'm stuck with oatmeal for lunch. And so that's what I ate for lunch on Monday. Same family, different tastes. This morning we're going to talk about God's design and how we are all part of something that is bigger than ourselves. We're part of the same family here. and how God created it and designed it that way, and yet how each and every one of us brings unique perspectives and abilities and gifts and personalities, and that isn't a bad thing. It's how God originally designed it. And when we operate according to God's design with all of that uniqueness and all of our differences, and we bring them together, we're able to accomplish more together than we ever would be able to apart. That's what we're going to talk about today. If you have your phones or your tablets, I'd invite you to follow along with us this morning in the Bible app. It's a free resource that you can find in whatever app store you utilize on your device. And once you have the Bible app installed on your device, a feature that we use together each and every week is called the Events feature. You can either enable your locations or right in Lakeside, Algoma will pop up and you can follow along with us that way. If you have a traditional Bible with you this morning, we're going to be looking at a part of 1 Corinthians chapter 12. 1 Corinthians is a book in the New Testament. We're going to look at chapter 12 in just a minute. And if you're joining us via the stream, thanks so much for joining us. My name is Brian. I'm part of the team here at Lakeside, and the verses will be available for you on the screen below. Now, before we dive into 1 Corinthians 12, and we're going to start in verse 12, but before we dive into that, I just want to remind you, over the course of the last few weeks, we've been looking at something called mission. And it's really the reason behind everything we do as a church. Everything we do as a church is driven by this main mission and this main idea that we exist, Lakeside Community Church exists to help people move one step closer to Jesus and reach those far from Him. So everything that we do, everything that is done here, everything that we plan, it is all planned with that mission in mind. Everything we evaluate through that sphere of whether or not we have been successful in helping people move one step closer to Jesus or reaching those far from Him. And today we're going to see an integral part of that, and it's the part that we all play according to God's design and how we can live to the fullness of how God created us to live. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, beginning in verse 12, we read these words. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of one Spirit. So we are all different. God has designed us all to be different, and yet we all come together to form one body that is bigger than any of us individually. And what's fascinating is this singular thing that unites us, and what unites us is in the fact that salvation is found in the sacrifice of Christ, that His death, burial, and resurrection presents to us salvation and forgiveness and freedom from our sin if we will accept the sacrifice that Christ made on our behalf. And this is not something that we can earn or deserve, but it's a gift that God has offered to us. And if we accept that gift, then we are followers of Jesus. And this singular thing is greater than any difference that unites us. It is greater than any political ideology. It is bigger than anything else that divides people upon any form of division, which means at Lakeside, we see that in an age, in an era where people have figured out that they can create attention and money for themselves, if they focus on division and they get people to oppose one another, what we do is we reject that. And we say we are going to keep the hope of Jesus the central thing that unites us, because this thing is bigger than anything else. It's bigger than whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or politically apathetic. It's bigger than if you're a Chevy truck guy or a Ford truck guy or a Dodge truck guy or a, I don't know any other brands of trucks guy. You know, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than if you're a Packer fan or a Bears fan. And I recognize it's very sensitive in light of the debacle that happened last night. But it's bigger than all of that, which means at Lakeside, we have people who love the Packers, and we have people who love the Bears, and we have people who drive Ford trucks and Chevy trucks and Dodge trucks and other kinds of trucks. We have people all across the political spectrum, and what we say is we're not going to allow any one of those differences to divide us, because we are united in something that is so much bigger and something that is so much more important. And that is in what Christ has accomplished for us. And this thing must be the thing that unites us. He says, look at God's design, that there's Jews in the church, and there's Greeks in the church, that there are slaves in the church, and there are free individuals in the church. And yet everyone comes together and finds unity in the fact that they are saved as a result of the sacrifice of Jesus. For the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing? If the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them, as He chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. And so the Apostle Paul appeals to us to look at ourselves. And he says, look at your physical body. The body is made up of all of these different parts. Your fingers are part of your body. Your toes are part of your body. Your feet, your hands, your arms, your torso, your eyes, your ears. Everything is part of the body, and yet every part is different. Every single part is different. We need the diversity of our differences. And he says, feet can't look at the hands and be jealous that they're not hands, because the feet play a vital part of the body. And ears can't be jealous of the eyes, because they play a part of the body. God designed this, and He orchestrated it. And not only did He design us with different talents and different abilities and different unique gifts, but He also designed each and every one of us individually and uniquely. And He orchestrated you being here and being a part of what He's doing, which is greater than any one part of us. Which means we're better when we live in community, which is what we are called to function in. Because the beauty of community is that it brings all of the differences and all of the diversity together. All of the different designs that God has made, all the different gifts, all the different personalities, God has brought that all together in something that is bigger than any one individual. The worst thing that could happen for Lakeside would be for Lakeside to try to imitate any one person. The worst thing that could happen for Lakeside would be for me to say, you know what I want Lakeside to look like? I want everyone at Lakeside to look like me. Why? Because for every gift I have equal weaknesses and even more weaknesses than I have gifts and competencies. And the same thing is true of you. For every area that you are gifted and every area that you are strong, there are corresponding weaknesses. And the beauty of God's design is He's built the diversity that says there's enough people and enough different gifts and abilities that this way, all the areas that I'm deficient can now be covered. The last thing we look for when we're staffing here at Lakeside is for people that are going to look at things and try to accomplish things in the same way I will. Why? Because again, if the whole staff is wired like me, that means all of our weak areas are going to be really, really weak. And we need the value of diversity, and we need the value of people being gifted in the areas I am not. And that's the beautiful design of the church. Not just in the gifts that we bring, but in how we function and go through life together. We are called to live in this kind of community where we all recognize the thing that unites us is greater than anything that divides us, and the thing that unites us is Jesus, so he is the focus. And pragmatically, this is one of the reasons why I hate streaming. This is one of the reasons that I hate it. Now, I love what streaming allows. And I love that it allows when there's a weather situation and it's not safe for people to travel, or when somebody's sick, they can stay plugged into the life of what's happening here at Lakeside. When there are reasons that they can't be here, that they're plugged in and they're part of it. I love all of those aspects of streaming. And what I hate about streaming is the idea of, well, I don't know that it's all that important for me to be there and for me to be part of what's actually going on. And the reason that it's always vital for you to be here is because we're better when you're here. We're better together. We're better with the personality and the diversity and the gifts that God has given you on display here at Lakeside. And the reality is, you may never know. You may never know an encouraging word or a simple conversation that you have with somebody and the difference that that's going to make in their day and in their life. Because we recognize we live in a world that tries to beat you down and tries to destroy you and tries to defeat you. And our hope and our prayers, when you walk in these doors, you know first and foremost that you are loved by God, and second, that you are loved by us. And we exist to proclaim the message that Jesus loves you and he came to save you. And we also want you to know that when you walk in these doors, first and foremost, you matter to God, but you matter to us. And so in a world that tries to defeat you and tries to beat you down, we exist to try to build you up and encourage you and remind you of all of the good that God is accomplishing and what he's doing. And we need every single person to be part of that, because there are some people that I can connect with really well, and there are people that I can't connect with, and there are people that you can connect with really well. And sometimes that looks like standing around and having a sob session and everybody's holding hands and crying, and that's beautiful and wonderful. And sometimes it's a Packer fan talking to a Bear fan, and the Bear fan being like, hey, how about that game last night? Knowing that it's still a fresh wound. And yet we're guys and we're flawed and we're broken, and there's a sickness within us that somehow that conveys, hey, this person really cares about me and they love me, even though they're making fun of my sports team losing, and I don't know why. Just go with it. There's just an illness within us that conveys that, and it's just the way it is. And so you're like, yeah, but that conveys that you matter and that you're seen. And that can't happen in isolation. It can't happen by yourself. We are better when you're here, but not only that, you're better when you're here. Because you're given an opportunity not only to use the gifts that God has given you, but that allows other people to use the gifts that God has given them to pour into you and into your life. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need for you. Every gift matters, every single one. And we strive to make opportunities available to everyone, no matter what you're gifted at. No matter what you're gifted at. We strive to make opportunities available to every single person, no matter the gift. And you can't say, well, I'm just gifted in this, so it doesn't really matter if I use my gift. Because my gifts, it's more inconsequential. It's more behind the scenes. It doesn't matter. In the same way, a foot can't say to a hand, well, I'm not a hand, so I'm not part of the body. Or an ear can't say to the eye. Now, the reality is this. I've looked at some people and I've thought, you know what? They have really nice eyes. They're pretty eyes. I've never looked at someone and been like, huh, look at the ears on that one. Like, it's just never happened. Never happened. Maybe it has for you. I don't know. But it's just never happened. And here's the thing. We can't say, oh, well, because some gifts are a little more high profile, or some gifts may seem to be a little more glamorous, that they're the only gifts that matter. Every single part of our bodies functions and fulfills a purpose. Every single one. Every single finger. Every single toe. Now, sometimes I don't understand what that purpose is. And I dropped something on my foot a week ago. I'd not thought about my little toe in ages before that. For days after that, I thought a lot about my little toe that I'd never given any thought to before that. Every single part of our bodies is an integral part. Every single gift, every single talent, and every single ability, and every single person that God has brought to Lakeside, every single one, matters and is vital to what God is doing. And so no matter what your gift is, we strive to make opportunities available for you, to everyone, no matter what you're gifted at. We strive to make opportunities easy to try. That we work you in and you feel like there's an onboarding and you feel like you're supported and you're not just like pushed into the deep end, but that we come alongside of you and try to help you out every step of that journey. We're never going to guilt people into serving in areas that you don't feel you're called for or that you're gifted at. This is why we're never going to do the obligation of serving in children's ministry. Like, it's never going to be great, I got to go spend the morning with a bunch of kids. I don't want to be here, but I got to keep them alive for a couple hours. Because number one, we want you to be excited about the opportunities that you have to use the gifts that God has given you. And number two, we believe that kids and students deserve to have people that are excited and passionate about working with them, and that we can convey to them that the most exciting and rewarding life you could lead is a life where you passionately pursue Jesus. And the last thing we want is somebody that we just pulled their name out of a hat and they won the loser lottery, and now they're stuck down there having to just keep a bunch of kids that they don't even like alive. And now it's like, oh, yeah, welcome to church, kids. No, what a horrible experience that would be for them, for everyone involved. And so that's never going to be our approach. We're never going to guilt people into serving in an area. We want you to serve and do things that you're excited about, that you're passionate about, that you're eager to do, not begrudgingly. We recognize that the pace of life sometimes requires you to pull back and not be as engaged as you would like to be for a season or for a time, and we want to work with you, and we're never going to guilt you about that, and we're never going to be like, well, if you really love Jesus, you would figure. No, we recognize that life and challenges and schedules are hard. So we want to come alongside of you, and we want serving to be something that energizes and excites you. And we also realize not everyone's a musician or a teacher or a greeter or a builder or a mentor or a planner or a cook or a camera operator or comfortable providing security. Not everybody is wired that way, and that's okay. We strive for you to have authentic opportunities with the personality God has given you and the gift set that God has wired you with, because none of that is a mistake. God intentionally designed you and created you this way, which is fascinating, because some people in their minds, they have visions that to follow Jesus, you have to be this emasculated, soft, weak person who wears colorful pastels all the time, or you aren't a good representation of following Christ. And on the other extreme, you have people that think that if you're actively following Jesus, you have to be uber confrontational, almost constantly angry, opinionated about everything, or else you're a weak follower of Jesus. And we just say, hey, remember the disciples who we looked at a few weeks ago. You had Simon, a zealot, who wanted to overthrow the government. You had Matthew, a tax collector, a governmental employee. You had James and John, sons of thunder, who were always ready to get in the middle of it. You had Peter, who never shut up and said all kinds of stupid things. And then you had disciples that you can't probably even name right now because they were functioning behind the scenes and doing ministry and roles that were less glamorous in ways that weren't as high profile. But these are the disciples that Jesus called and he did his ministry with. All radically different. And so we want you to serve God fully as the person God created you to be. And a person that is constantly moving closer to Jesus and becoming more and more like him and less like yourself, but to see the evidence of God working in you. Then we get to verse 22. On the contrary, the parts of the body that seem to be weaker and indispensable, and on those parts of the body that we think less honorable, we bestow the greater honor, and our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty, which our more presentable parts do not require. But God has so composed the body, giving greater honor to the part that lacked it. Now, I recognize some of this can be a little bit confusing as we're talking about weaker and indispensable parts, and some parts, that we have to keep covered up more than others. So what is being conveyed here? Well, some body parts are weaker than others, and we all understand that. And so it is with people and gifts. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, we're told it's part of God's design. In the same way that parts of our bodies are weaker than other parts of our bodies, so it is here in the church. Some people are stronger than others. Some people are gifted in more proficient ways than other people are gifted. Everyone who's made the decision to follow Jesus is gifted. But the propensity for service changes. What people are able to handle and able to do. And that doesn't mean that one is better than the other, because all are part of the body. All have been part of God's unique and intentional design. Now, the less honorable, unpresentable parts, the greater honor, the greater modesty, don't overthink this. It's not too complicated. I realize on a day like today, you want to be covered and clothes head to toe because it's freezing outside. But even in the summer, there are parts of our bodies that we keep covered up. And so these are parts of our bodies that we spend more time covering up, more money covering up those parts of the body. And greater, what does it mean when it says, but God has given greater honor to the part that lacked it? Well, I want you to think about this. What does God need from us? Nothing. God's self-sustaining. God's all-powerful. If God wants to accomplish something, he could go about it any way that he wants. He spoke and he created the world. In an instant, God can do anything that God wants to do. And yet, how has God chosen to accomplish his work? He has chosen to partner with us. Broken, imperfect, flawed people. Not out of necessity, but out of a desire to allow us to partner with him in the work that he is doing. That God could accomplish everything he wants to accomplish and all the work that he wants to do apart from us. But that isn't how he has chosen about accomplishing the work that he wants to accomplish. So that he has equipped us as part of a community, individually with personalities and gifts and abilities, that we can go about using the gifts that he has given us and impacting the world with the hope of Jesus. That there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. Because God uses us for His glory, it is essential that we all do our part and that we serve unified and live in authentic community. This is God's design. He's called us to something greater than any single part, any single one of us. And it's not an accident that you are here. This is part of God's original design and intention. And so our response is to live in something that's bigger than us. To recognize we are a part of the body, but we all belong to something so much bigger and so much greater than us. And what does that look like pragmatically? That when one of us suffers, people suffer right alongside of us. And when we experience success, that other people celebrate right alongside of us. In a world that tells you you need to be isolated, you need to be alone, God's design is the exact opposite. That you would experience community. And I recognize there's a Midwest mentality, and we all think, I can do it on my own. And when crisis comes, what you discover is you can't. You must have community. And that's God's design, not only in the midst of crisis, but in the midst of our greatest successes. That none of us would live in isolation, and none of us would live alone, according to God's design. And so we live in community, and we serve in community. Now, you are all the body of Christ and individually members of it. And God has appointed in the church first apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then miracles, then gifts of healing, helping, administrating, and various kinds of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Do all work miracles? Do all possess gifts of healing? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? But earnestly desire the higher gifts, and I will show you a still more excellent way. Every single one of us is part of something bigger than you and I. But you and I are an integral part of it. Now, God's established this with structure and design. So because we're individual parts of the body, we have to work in unison with the other parts of the body. It can't be a free-for-all, but we have to work together. This is why we want you to be part of what God is doing and utilize your gifts. And so if you're part of Lakeside and you're not currently doing that, I would love for you to go to our website, lakeside-church.com/help. And there you will find numerous opportunities for you to be part of what God is doing here at Lakeside. And by the way, opportunities that no matter what you're gifted at, and no matter what you're passionate about, there is a chance for you to get plugged in and to get involved in what God is doing. But we recognize this too. Because God has designed us all uniquely with individual personalities and individual gifts, we recognize you might have something you're passionate about, you might have something you're gifted in, that as you go over the list of what we've already put together, you think to yourself, hey, these sound good, but I've got this, and I think this would be a great opportunity for Lakeside to expand and offer something that's not currently on this list. There is an option on that page for you to share with us ideas that you have. And we can sit down and we can say, all right, do we think this plugs in? Is this something that we're able to do that helps us further our mission of helping people move one step closer to Jesus and reaching those far from Him? Or is this something that we could say, hey, this is great, but it's not the right time or not the right context? Or is this just something that isn't a very good idea? Because contrary to what they tell you in grade school, sometimes people just have bad ideas. And the last thing we want is for people to be frustrated by feeling like, hey, I can't serve and utilize my gift, and for us to be like, well, if we did let you serve, that's a really bad idea that's going to go horribly wrong. So we'd love to talk about it. lakeside-church.com/help. All of this, all of us come together as part of the body and recognize we're part of something that is so much bigger than any one of us. And that's according to God's design. But all of it needs to be done in love. And if you're like, well, that sounds good, but how did we get there? We don't have time to look at it. But 1 Corinthians 13, this is where 1 Corinthians 12 ends. And when the Apostle Paul says, but earnestly desire the higher gifts, and I will show you a still more excellent way, that is him setting up one of the clearest descriptions of love that's recorded for us in Scripture. And that's found in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And so it's not enough for us to operate just in the gifts that God has given us. It's not enough for us just to perform with our personalities. Everything we do must be driven by our love for God and our love for others. This is why it matters so much to us that people understand when they walk in these doors that they are loved by God and that they are loved and they matter to us. This is why it's vital for you to understand you are not here by accident, and the gifts that you have and the person that you are has been brought here with a purpose by God to accomplish something that is bigger than yourself. On Thursday, I opened up the fridge to grab my lunch before I came in. And there on the shelf in the fridge was a bowl of soup. Now, I hadn't been to the store, but my wife had been. And so I grabbed the soup, the same kind that I'd debated with her and she'd eaten. And I packed it, and I brought it. And I ate it for lunch, and contrary to what she thought when she debated with me, it was delicious, and I loved it. But it was there, in the fridge. Not because I'd done anything to put it there, but because she had time. She went to the store, and she grabbed it for me. Now, hopefully in marriage, those things happen all the time. But the service of someone I love, who took time out of her day, made my day easier. And it helped me. And what God's called each and every one of us to do is to be part of a community and to play our part. That reminds us in the midst of a world that tries to tear us down and defeat us. That reminds us that we are loved and that we matter. And every single one of us, God has created with unique talents, gifts, and abilities to not only receive that love, but to give it to others and provide it to them in their time of need. God, I pray that you would help us. Live out the principles that you've given us here. That every person who walks in these doors, God, would know that they matter to you. and that they matter to us. That we would all be quick to use the gifts that you've given us. Talents and abilities, united with our unique personalities, to serve you and to serve one another. Thank you for allowing us to partner in the work that you do. And I pray, God, that every person who walks in these doors would find their people here, would know there's a God who loves them, and know that they matter, and would be eager and intentional to do the same for others in the natural ways that you've designed them. Be glorified through us, Jesus.